The galactic capital gleamed like a jewel in the endless black of space. Towering spires of glass and metal reflected the light of distant stars, and ships of every size and design drifted through the skies, moving with precise purpose. On the largest platform, the palace of the princess shone brighter than any other building, a symbol of both power and tradition. Today, the palace would host the event that the entire galaxy had been waiting for, the selection of the princess's consort. Thousands of candidates had arrived from the far corners of the universe. Some came from planets with advanced technology, some from noble families with centuries of influence, and others carried wealth so great it could rival small star systems. Each one had trained their entire life for this moment. The competition would test their intelligence, skill, courage, and even compassion. Winning would secure not just a life beside the princess, but a position of influence over the galaxy itself. Among the thousands of hopefuls, most expected a few familiar names to rise to the top. Families with power, rich merchants, and brilliant strategists were the obvious favorites, but Jaren was not one of them. Jaren had grown up on Minara, a small mining planet on the edge of the Outer Rim. His life had been simple. He knew the hum of machinery better than the hum of politics. He had never seen a palace like this before, nor dreamed of standing in the middle of a trial watched by billions across the galaxy. He was not wealthy. He was not famous. And yet, for reasons that even he did not understand, he had decided to enter the competition. The announcement of the trials had come weeks ago. Every hopeful was to participate in 3 major stages: a test of intellect, a test of skill and courage, and a test of leadership and morality. The first stage began in the Hall of Challenges, a massive arena filled with puzzles, simulations, and holographic scenarios. Candidates would be evaluated on their intelligence, creativity, and problem-solving ability. Jaren stepped forward nervously, feeling the weight of the thousands of eyes, both virtual and real, on him. The first puzzle appeared as a glowing holographic map of a star system, riddled with anomalies and missing data. Other candidates immediately pulled up their devices, analyzing the information with quick calculations and advanced algorithms. Some relied on robots, others on implants that could process data at unimaginable speeds. Jaren took a deep breath. He had no implants. He had no advanced equipment beyond a small tablet from his home planet. But he remembered the lessons his father had taught him long ago. Think like a human first. Let your mind and heart work together. Machines are tools, not answers. He studied the map carefully, not rushing. He noticed patterns that others overlooked. A missing asteroid belt that connected 2 planets, a path through a nebula that only appeared under certain light conditions, and the risk of gravitational anomalies that could throw the entire system off balance. Slowly, methodically, he mapped a safe route through the system, explaining his reasoning in clear, simple steps. The judges whispered among themselves. His solution was elegant in its simplicity. It relied not on advanced computation, but on observation, logic, and an understanding of human behavior. How people made mistakes, how nature worked, and how problems could be solved without unnecessary complexity. By the end of the first stage, Jaren was not the top scorer, but he had gained attention, a rare achievement among candidates who relied solely on gadgets and enhancements. The second stage tested skill and courage. Candidates faced simulated crises, ship malfunctions, hostile encounters, and sudden disasters. Most relied on their training or technology to solve the problems quickly. But when a simulation went wrong, an asteroid field shifted too quickly, leaving many candidates trapped. Jaren acted differently. He did not panic. He studied the environment, looked for the safest path, and led a small group of panicked candidates through the obstacle. When one of them stumbled, he grabbed their arm without hesitation, guiding them to safety. Others had the skills, but many lacked the courage to act under pressure or the willingness to help others at the risk of their own success. The princess observed quietly. She had seen hundreds of candidates fail this stage, each relying on their enhancements or pride. Jaren's performance was unusual, not because he was flawless, but because he showed care, creativity, and courage all at once. His small acts of humanity stood out like stars in the vast darkness of space. By the end of the second stage, whispers ran through the palace. Some candidates laughed at the idea of a simple miner competing with them. Others frowned, recognizing that there was something different about him, something that could not be measured by wealth or status. The final stage of the trials would test leadership and morality. But before it began, Jaren found himself walking through the palace gardens, trying to calm his mind. The gardens floated in zero gravity, with streams of water twisting through the air like ribbons and plants that glowed softly under the artificial sun. He paused near a small fountain and watched the reflection of the stars. "Quite a view, isn't it?" a voice said. Jaren turned. A young woman in a simple white dress approached him. It was Princess Arya, the heir of the Galactic Alliance. She had watched the trials from afar, but now she spoke directly to him. "I've seen how you handle yourself," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "Most candidates think this is a contest of skill or wealth. They forget that a leader must care for people, not just numbers." Jaren blinked. I'm not sure I belong here," he admitted. "I'm just a pilot from a small planet." "I don't have the training or the power of the others," Arya smiled faintly. "Sometimes the galaxy forgets that strength is not just what you have, but what you do with it. Courage, compassion, and wisdom, these are harder to teach than any skill." He didn't know what to say. He had never expected the princess to notice him, and yet here she was, acknowledging the very things that he had always tried to live by. The final stage began the next day. The candidates were placed in a massive simulation designed to test leadership under moral dilemmas. Ships in distress, colonists in danger, and political crises emerged simultaneously. Most candidates panicked or relied on brute force to solve problems. They made quick, technical decisions, but often ignored the consequences for ordinary people. Jaren approached the simulation differently. He listened first, observing the needs of each person, each system, and each planet involved. Then he acted decisively but thoughtfully. He coordinated rescue efforts, allocated resources efficiently, and made choices that saved lives rather than just winning points. The other candidates watched him, some with envy, some with disbelief. He was not the strongest. He was not the richest. He was not the fastest. Yet he achieved what none of them could: balance. Logic, courage, and compassion worked together in perfect harmony. By the end of the stage, Jaren was exhausted but quietly satisfied. He had done his best, not for fame, not for wealth, not for the approval of judges, but because he knew it was the right thing to do. When the candidates gathered in the grand hall for the announcement, the atmosphere was tense. Thousands of eyes, both physical and virtual, focused on the stage. Political advisors whispered, families fumed, and alien dignitaries watched with sharp interest. The head judge stepped forward, clearing his throat. "This year's trials have been unlike any other. Candidates from across the galaxy have shown exceptional skill, intelligence, and courage. But one candidate has demonstrated something rarer, something that cannot be engineered or bought." All eyes turned toward Jaren. He froze, unsure if he had heard correctly. The judge continued, "This candidate has shown humanity, ingenuity, and bravery in ways that even the most elite could not match. For his actions, and for the hope he inspires, he has gained the attention of Princess Arya herself." A murmur ran through the hall. Jaren's heart pounded. The galaxy had not expected him, a simple miner, to stand out. And yet here he was. Princess Arya rose from her seat, her gaze steady on Jaren. "This competition is not just about who can win points or impress judges," she said. "It is about who can lead with wisdom, courage, and a heart for the people. Jaren, you have proven yourself in ways that matter most." The crowd erupted, some with applause, some with disbelief. Jaren could barely comprehend it. He had done nothing extraordinary, at least not in the way the galaxy measured success. But somehow, he had drawn the princess's attention, the first step toward a story that would shock the entire galaxy. As the hall settled, Jaren realized one thing clearly: his life had just changed forever. And the galaxy, for the first time, had begun to notice that ordinary humans could achieve extraordinary things. The grand arena of the galactic capital was alive with anticipation. Across the galaxy, billions watched via live broadcast, waiting for the final trials of the princess's selection. This was not just a contest of skill or knowledge. It was a test of courage, leadership, and heart under impossible pressure. Today, Jaren, the humble pilot from Mynara, would face the greatest challenge of his life. The arena itself was a marvel of technology and artistry. Floating platforms shifted silently above a glowing floor. Holographic obstacles, simulations of star systems, and virtual crises sprawled in every direction. The final trial would test not just intellect, but judgment, decision-making, and empathy. Only the candidates who could combine all of these would survive the challenges and potentially win the princess's favor. The elite candidates moved with confidence, their enhancements and training visible in every precise movement. Some wore suits that could calculate physics instantly, others carried devices that predicted outcomes before they occurred. They were sure that no mere minor could stand against them. Jaren stepped into the arena with a quiet determination. He carried no devices beyond his simple tablet and his knowledge of the stars. He was nervous, yes, but he relied on something the others had long forgotten: intuition and humanity. The trial began. Immediately, a holographic crisis flashed across the arena. A colony in the Narath cluster was under threat from an unexpected asteroid field. The simulation was designed to test quick decision-making. Candidates scrambled, typing into devices, deploying simulations, and attempting to calculate perfect solutions. Jaren paused. He studied the hologram, noticing patterns in the asteroid movement that no machine could anticipate. He realized that panic among the colony's inhabitants was as dangerous as the asteroids themselves. Instead of trying to destroy or move the asteroids, he focused on guiding the colonists to natural shelters and safe zones. "Follow me," he called to a few nearby candidates who hesitated. "Trust me, this path is safe." Many ignored him, relying on technology. Several advanced candidates made errors, miscalculating gravitational pulls and sending virtual rescue ships into danger. Jaren's group, however, moved efficiently, saving everyone in the simulation. When the judges reviewed the results, they whispered among themselves. He had succeeded not because of machines or enhancements, but because he understood people. The next challenge escalated even further. A political crisis emerged in the simulation. Two planets were on the brink of war over trade disputes. Candidates were given the chance to negotiate, using strategy, logic, or force to achieve victory. Most candidates chose domination, sending threats or manipulating alliances. Jaren, however, chose dialogue. He observed both sides, listening carefully to their fears and priorities. He proposed solutions that respected both planets' needs, suggesting compromises and creative trade solutions that no one had considered. Slowly, tensions eased, and what seemed like inevitable conflict turned into cooperation. The princess, watching quietly from the observation platform, leaned forward. There was something in Jaren's approach that stood out. It was rare, almost revolutionary. He treated people as partners, not pawns. But the trials were far from over. The final simulation was designed to test courage in the face of real danger. A massive rogue asteroid had entered the orbit of a densely populated system. If it collided, millions could die. This scenario required immediate action. The candidates were expected to design evacuation strategies, use advanced technology, and demonstrate command. The elite candidates panicked. Their calculations were precise, but their reliance on technology made them slow to act when anomalies arose. One miscalculation could ruin everything. Many candidates argued, wasting precious minutes debating the perfect solution. Jaren did something unexpected. He didn't wait. Using his knowledge of physics, simple engineering principles, and common sense, he devised a solution that balanced speed and safety. He coordinated the evacuation using the colony's own ships, directing traffic in a way that avoided collisions and minimized risk. When one ship encountered an unexpected malfunction, Jaren personally guided it to safety. "Stay calm," he shouted. "We can do this if we work together." His calm determination inspired others to follow him. Even the most elite candidates were forced to acknowledge his skill. By the time the simulation ended, every life had been saved. Jaren had succeeded not because he was stronger, faster, or richer, but because he cared and acted decisively. The arena fell silent. Judges exchanged glances, unable to hide their astonishment. The princess rose, her expression unreadable. She approached the podium, her eyes fixed on Jaren. "Jaren," she said, her voice carrying across the arena, "you have done something extraordinary. In every challenge, you have not only succeeded, but you have done so with courage, wisdom, and compassion. The galaxy has watched thousands of candidates, and yet it is you who stands out." Murmurs ran through the crowd. Some were shocked that a minor could surpass the elite candidates. Others whispered in awe, recognizing that his approach, humanity first, calculation second, was unlike anything they had seen. Political advisors began to protest quietly. They had expected the princess to select someone from a powerful family or with immense wealth. Choosing a humble pilot from a distant planet would disrupt centuries of tradition, but the princess ignored them, her gaze steady. "There is no question," she continued. "Leadership is not measured by birthright, wealth, or enhancements. It is measured by the courage to act, the wisdom to guide, and the heart to care for others. Jaren, you have shown all these qualities. I choose you." The arena erupted. Some cheered, some gasped, and some stared in disbelief. Across the galaxy, screens flashed with the news. Social media channels and news networks exploded. Comments poured in from every star system. "He's just a minor. How could she choose him over thousands? This changes everything." Jaren stood frozen, barely able to comprehend what he had just heard. The princess's words echoed in his mind. For years, he had dreamed of adventure, of doing something meaningful, but he never imagined it would happen like this. And now, the entire galaxy was watching. Despite the chaos, Jaren's mind remained clear. He knew this was only the beginning. Accepting the princess's choice would place him in the spotlight, make him a leader, and attract enemies as well as allies. But he also knew that if he acted wisely, he could use this opportunity to inspire humanity across the stars. The next days were filled with ceremonies, interviews, and political maneuvering. Many elites tried to undermine him, spreading doubt and attempting to discredit his accomplishments. Yet the princess stood firmly beside him. Her confidence in him gave courage to ordinary humans everywhere. People from remote planets, ordinary miners, engineers, and pilots began to believe that their lives and choices mattered too. Jaren's rise became more than a personal story. It became a symbol of hope, ingenuity, and human potential. He showed that even those who seemed ordinary could achieve extraordinary feats when they combined courage, intelligence, and compassion. But not everyone was happy. Some factions, who had long relied on power, manipulation, and technology to dominate, saw Jaren's rise as a threat. They began plotting behind the scenes, trying to create crises that would test his leadership in ways no simulation could. Their goal was simple: prove that the galaxy could not survive under the guidance of someone so ordinary. Unaware of these hidden threats, Jaren continued his training and preparations. He spent hours learning diplomacy, strategy, and the nuances of galactic politics. He traveled with the princess to distant colonies, meeting citizens and leaders, and demonstrating leadership through action, not just words. Everywhere he went, humans looked at him with new admiration. They began to see that human creativity and courage could outshine the most advanced technology and the wealthiest families. One evening, aboard the princess's personal starship, Jaren looked out at the stars, reflecting on how far he had come. The vastness of the galaxy stretched before him, full of challenges, opportunities, and unseen dangers. And yet, for the first time in his life, he felt a sense of purpose. "Do you ever get scared?" the princess asked quietly, sitting beside him. "Every day," Jaren admitted. "But fear doesn't mean I stop. It means I keep moving, keep learning, and keep caring. That's how you survive and lead in this galaxy." The princess smiled. "I knew that the moment I saw you in the first trial." Most candidates forget that leadership isn't about winning. It's about guiding, protecting, and inspiring others. "That is why I chose you." Jaren felt a surge of determination. Whatever challenges awaited, whatever dangers the galaxy threw at them, he would face them. Not as a miner from Minara, but as someone who had earned the trust of the princess and the admiration of billions. The stage was set for what would come next. Rival factions, ancient politics, and unforeseen crises awaited. But Jaren was ready. He had proven that ordinary humans could achieve extraordinary things. And now, the galaxy would soon see just how far human courage and ingenuity could reach. As the starship accelerated toward the next system, Jaren looked at the swirling stars and thought of Minara, of his simple home, and of the people who believed in him. The galaxy might have been shocked, but this was only the beginning. Humanity's story was just unfolding, and Jaren was determined to make it legendary. The galaxy was still buzzing with shock. Across countless star systems, screens broadcast the moment Princess Arya had chosen Jaren. The miner from Minara, the ordinary pilot who had faced impossible odds, now stood beside the princess, officially recognized as her consort. What had been a quiet story of courage and ingenuity had become a galactic phenomenon. Yet admiration was not universal. Many elites and powerful factions were uneasy. They had relied on tradition, wealth, and power for centuries. A miner with no family influence or political connections being chosen threatened everything they believed the galaxy stood for. Secret meetings were held on distant planets. Plans were whispered in the shadows. Rival factions determined to test the human pilot in ways he had never imagined. But Jaren did not falter. He and Princess Arya embarked on a journey through the galaxy, visiting colonies, cities, and planets where his actions could inspire real change. Every stop, every meeting was a chance to demonstrate human courage, ingenuity, and fairness. Their first visit was to the colony of Viral, a mining settlement on the edge of a volatile star cluster. The colony had faced repeated asteroid storms, and previous governors had failed to protect it effectively. Jaren observed the colony carefully. Machines could detect incoming threats, but he noticed that the leaders lacked coordination. He organized the miners and engineers, combining their knowledge with his own quick thinking. He established a system where resources were shared, shelters were strengthened, and emergency response teams could react instantly. When the next asteroid storm struck, the colony survived with minimal damage, a feat that had baffled previous administrations. The people cheered. They began to understand what Princess Arya had seen in him: human determination, practical thinking, and empathy. The story of the miner who became a hero spread across nearby systems, inspiring ordinary humans to believe they, too, could achieve the extraordinary. Meanwhile, in the shadows, rival factions continued plotting. One powerful trade guild, angry that a commoner had gained influence, orchestrated a blockade in a vital star lane. They hoped to force Jaren into a situation where he would fail, humiliate the princess, and restore the status quo. When news of the blockade reached them, Jaren didn't panic. He analyzed the situation carefully. The guild had the numbers and the technology, but they had not anticipated human ingenuity and adaptability. Using small, nimble ships from nearby allies, he coordinated a series of maneuvers that allowed transport vessels to pass through safely. At the same time, he sent a message to the guild, appealing to reason and cooperation rather than conflict. The guild was forced to relent, astonished that a single human pilot had outmaneuvered their forces. Once again, Jaren had proven that strategy, courage, and empathy could outweigh brute strength and technological advantage. As their journey continued, the duo visited a distant planet known for its aggressive alien species. The species, the Xipherians, had previously resisted any attempts at diplomacy. Past leaders had relied on force or intimidation, which only worsened hostilities. Jaren approached differently. He spent days observing Xipherian culture, understanding their priorities, fears, and values. When he finally addressed their leaders, he spoke honestly, acknowledging their concerns while offering fair solutions. He proposed joint projects, trade agreements, and shared exploration missions that benefited both humans and Xipherians. Slowly, trust was built. By the end of the negotiations, an alliance was formed, a first in decades of failed diplomacy. The galaxy took notice. Humans, who had once been underestimated as a minor species on the Outer Rim, now demonstrated the power of ingenuity and empathy. Scholars, journalists, and leaders from other species began analyzing what made Jaren different. The answer was simple, yet profound. Humanity's strength was not in machines, wealth, or technology alone, but in courage, creativity, and moral clarity. Back in the galactic capital, political tension escalated. Some nobles feared Jaren's rise, claiming that humans were untested for leadership on a galactic scale. Others argued that if a humble miner could outperform centuries of tradition, perhaps the galaxy had underestimated the potential of ordinary beings. Public opinion, however, was overwhelmingly in Jaren's favor. Humans and allies of humans rallied, and even some elites began to accept that a new era was dawning. Then came the greatest challenge yet, a natural disaster of unprecedented scale. A massive star in the Krylos system was destabilizing, threatening to explode and obliterate neighboring planets. Thousands of lives were at risk, and the Galactic Council looked to Princess Arya and Jaren for leadership. The elite candidates from the trials were long gone, but their influence lingered. Many doubted that Jaren, a pilot from a remote planet, could handle such a crisis. Yet he approached it as he always had, calmly, logically, and with deep empathy. He coordinated evacuation plans, worked with engineers to stabilize nearby planets, and personally oversaw the safe transport of colonists. He relied on creative solutions, like redirecting smaller asteroids to absorb energy, using natural gravitational fields to shield critical areas, and employing simple, elegant physics that machines had overlooked. When the star finally erupted in a controlled chain of events, the disaster was minimized. Millions of lives were saved, and Jaren's reputation as a leader of extraordinary capability was cemented. The princess watched him with pride, knowing her choice had been right. As celebrations spread throughout the galaxy, Jaren reflected on what had brought him here. He had never sought fame or power. He had relied on common sense, courage, and care for others, and that had been enough to overcome impossible odds. The victory was not just personal. It was a triumph for humanity itself. People across the galaxy began to take pride in their abilities, realizing that they could face challenges that seemed beyond reach. Ordinary humans, once overlooked and underestimated, now had a symbol: Jaren, the miner who became a galactic hero. Yet even in triumph, Jaren knew there would be challenges ahead. Rival factions still existed, crises were inevitable, and the galaxy was full of unpredictable dangers. But he no longer feared them. He had learned that humanity's greatest strength lay not in tools or technology, but in spirit, ingenuity, and heart. In the quiet moments aboard the princess's starship, he and Arya discussed the future. "Do you think the galaxy is ready for this?" she asked. "They'll learn," Jaren said calmly, gazing at the stars. "Humans will show them what courage, creativity, and compassion can do. It's not about being the strongest. It's about doing what's right even when it seems impossible." The princess smiled. "I chose you because I saw that, and now the galaxy will see it too." Over the following months, their leadership continued to inspire. Colonies prospered, alien alliances strengthened, and humans gained respect across systems that had once dismissed them. Jaren and Arya faced occasional opposition, but every challenge reinforced the same lesson: humans could achieve the extraordinary even against overwhelming odds. The story of Jaren's rise spread to every corner of the galaxy. It was no longer just about a princess choosing a consort. It was about a species that had long been underestimated, proving its worth on the largest stage imaginable. Young humans on distant planets began dreaming bigger. Engineers, pilots, and scholars pushed the limits of what they thought possible. Civilians acted with courage in small ways, believing that even small actions could change the future. The galaxy, once skeptical of humanity, now watched with awe. Where there had been doubt, there was hope. Where there had been dismissal, there was respect. And where there had been ordinary, there was extraordinary potential. Years later, historians would look back at this moment, the choice of the princess and the rise of Jaren, as a turning point. Humanity had claimed its place among the stars, not by force or wealth, but by the qualities that made it truly remarkable: courage, ingenuity, and a heart that cared for others. Jaren never forgot his roots. He often visited Minara, the small planet where he had grown up, teaching young people to dream, to act, and to believe in their potential. He reminded them that greatness did not require nobility, money, or enhancements. It required determination, kindness, and a willingness to act when it mattered most. The galaxy watched as humans rose, inspired by one miner who had faced impossible odds and succeeded. And though challenges would continue, one truth became clear: humanity could achieve anything when it chose to rise. The stars stretched endlessly before Jaren and Arya. Together, they would continue to guide the galaxy, showing that leadership, courage, and the human spirit were forces greater than any machine, weapon, or wealth. And in every corner of the universe, humans looked up at the stars with renewed pride, knowing that the galaxy had finally learned what they were capable of. The ordinary had become extraordinary. The underestimated had become unstoppable. And humanity's story was only just beginning.